This morning, when we met for our Revelation study, a question came up as to these birds that are gorging themselves on the flesh of the wicked after the Battle of Armageddon. I knew that there was another place in Scripture that talks about this, but I wasn't quite sure how long it was going to take me to look it up. And actually, it popped up pretty easily. It's in Ezekiel 39, verse 4. So let's actually read the whole context of Ezekiel 39. Son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, this is what Gog means mountain. Gog means, in Ezekiel 38 and 39, the word is talking about Gog and Magog. Gog is a mountain that God is upset with. So it's a power that God is upset with. And as you look at the description and you look at the way that God is talking to Gog, we discover that this is the Antichrist. Now, there is also Magog, which is the land of Gog. I'm really trying to enunciate that G so that you don't think that I'm saying God, but that you realize that I'm saying Gog. Okay, so Magog is the land of Gog, the land of the Antichrist. Well, what's the land of Christ? Israel. Is Israel a land? No, it's not a land. It is sometimes used metaphorically to represent land, but then in Revelation, you see that Jerusalem is a bride beautifully dressed for her husband coming out of the sky. Is that land? No. You understand that that's God's people. Orthodox Jews acknowledge that Israel are God's people. Jerusalem are God's people. The only reason anyone thinks that this is literal land is because Reformed Judaism has used that and exploited that in order to create their own narrative so that they can go and do the wicked things that they're doing right now. Okay, so that's Zionist mentality. That's a religion of its own. It has nothing to do with the truth and nothing to do with what it means to be a Jew, Israel, or Jerusalem. So if God has land and that land are his people, then Gog also has land and that land is his people. This is the Antichrist and the kingdom of the Antichrist. Jesus and Israel represent the kingdom of the Christ. So let's actually start with Revelation 19:21, and then we'll go back to Ezekiel 39. Revelation 19:21 says, the rest were killed with the sword coming out of the mouth of the rider on the horse. Okay, Jesus is not going to come swinging around his head, literally slaying in the physical. The double-edged sword coming out of Jesus' mouth represents conviction. It represents the word. Remember, the word says the word is sharper than a two-edged sword? Okay, that's what we're talking about. That's how they're going to be slain. So the rest were killed with the sword coming out of the mouth of the rider on the horse, and all the birds gorged themselves on their flesh. Okay, so the question was, what does this mean? Is this literal? Is it symbolic? It's symbolic. Okay, now we're going to read about it. We're going to read about it in Ezekiel 39 and also in 32. Ezekiel 39, Son of man, prophesy against Gog, that mountain, remember, the Antichrist, and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says, I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around and drag you along. I will bring you from the far north and send you against the mountains of Israel. Okay, so he's using the Antichrist and sending it against the mountains of Israel, but then he's going to turn on him. Then I will strike your bow from your left hand and make your arrows drop from your right hand. On the mountains of Israel you will fall, you and all your troops and the nations with you. I will give you as food to all kinds of carrion birds and to the wild animals. You will fall in the open field, for I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. I will send fire on Magog, okay, land of Gog, and on those who live in safety in the coastlands, and they will know that I am the Lord. So what he's representing here is something similar to when he says you'll be as dung, lying in the road. So you're almost like roadkill. You're going to come to nothing. The birds are going to devour you. The wild animals are going to devour you. You will be destroyed. That's the symbolism. Okay, now in Ezekiel 32, he says, with a great throng of people I will cast my net over you, and they will haul you up in my net. I will throw you on the land and hurl you on the open fields. I will let all the birds of the sky settle on you, and all the animals of the wild gorge themselves on you. I will spread your flesh on the mountains and fill the valleys with your remains. I will drench the land with your flowing blood all the way to the mountains, and ravines will be filled with your flesh. When I snuff you out, I will cover the heavens and darken their stars. I will cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon will not give its light. All the shining lights in the heavens I will darken over you. I will bring darkness over your land, declares the sovereign Lord. Okay, so God could be saying this literally. He could also be saying it symbolically. I am inclined to believe that he's saying it symbolically. I do not necessarily believe that when people are coming out of their tombs and graves, or people who've been burned, I mean, what body do they have? If they died in a fire, for example, it's not as though God can't give them a body, but by this time, I think we should be able to understand that it's not a body that gives you life. It's your spirit that comes to life. My dog is snoring in the background. It's actually very loud. I don't know if the video ever picks up on that, but I always feel I need to say it. The greater representation here, regardless of what it is, regardless of whether this is going to be symbolic, a symbolic destruction of those people who have devoured God's people being devoured, or whether it's literal, it's clear that it is a representation of destruction. Now, here's the thing, is that when God is bringing punishment, when he talks about like the lake of burning sulfur, do you think that physically you're being tormented, or do you think that he's bringing judgment that is convicting you and you're being emotionally tormented? Scripture seems to indicate that this is an emotional torment. So when Satan is thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, is he being physically tormented? Satan is spirit, guys. So the way I understand this, and you've got to discern this with God, the way that I understand it is that this is a symbolic torment in which the wicked are going to be devoured. Either way, it's definitely representing devouring and destruction. Please discern this with God. And by the way, when you discern it with God, come back and let us know. Let us know if he gave you another witness. Let us know what he's putting on your heart. Are there any other places in Scripture where you see this, and this would give us more information as to what this looks like?